Alright, so welcome back. Welcome back to the Our Anime Podcast. I'm ATonOfBacon, and here for this lineup, we have the All-Star lineup. Because we got... Yeah, this All-Star lineup. I have faith in all of you guys, except for one of you.
What is this, the Eagles? Or the Dream Team?
Dude, Shaw wishes we were the Eagles.
Thanks, Vince Young.
We have Mozilla Fanakin.
What's up, gamers?
Do gamer life, yeah. Yeah, I feel that. PC Master Race. We got Becker. What the hell is that?
Sorry, no.
That was his gamer mating call.
That was my gamer mating.
Gross, dude.
Yes,
That was
let's go with that.
And then, coming back at you again, we have Smurf Rock Rune.
I thought you were going to say Kirby. I was like, right back at you.
Dude, I love Kirby right back at you. Oh, hey, forgot you're there.
Oh, yeah, what's up?
I forgot what was happening.
Oh.
Well,
that's good. Well,
did you turn your brain off? XD?
Dude, I was just about to say that. So this episode's about turning your brain off. So you guys have probably heard that argument where they introduce you a show like, oh, hey, you should watch this show, but it'd be better if you turn your brain off. And we still don't know what exactly that means sometimes. I don't know.
I know.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about, right?
When do we get the turn your brain off is not an argument video?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this like the pregame to Moses' video? Is that what it is?
That will happen someday. I have thought about this, actually.
That'd be pretty
I
interesting.
do want to hear your take on it. I'm pretty sure a lot of the information
You literally will hear his take on it right now.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So what's a show you've been told by other people that's like, all right, watch this, but you gotta turn your brain off? You know what I mean? Like, is there any show that's the first thing people tell you? For me, it's Inferno Cop.
Well, okay.
Inferno Cop is one? Okay. For me, it's something like Fairy Tail or like long-running Battle Shonen.
Well, yeah, long-running battle shonen. There's really not much to think about other than power, friendship, and you fight.
Especially
Fairy Tail's like super repetitive. Like, it's like
everything that's important is going to happen like 30 times.
Mm-hmm.
Every arc has literally the exact same format.
Like,
it always ends with it's always someone shows up, they get beat, then they're like, oh, we can actually beat them, and then Urza loses. Because she
for whatever reason, even though she's like a literal god, like she has unlimited blade works and everything. It's great.
But she loses in every arc, and then power.
And then she takes her clothes off.
Naku unleashes some kind of new power that is never seen again, and they beat the bad guy. But the thing that bothered me was that they always knock him unconscious. They never actually they knock him unconscious and then leave, and it's like you're just gonna wake up and do the same thing again.
Low key, like Fairy Tail's like a kid show because so like the first 50 episodes of the original show has this like don't stand too close to the TV kind of thing that like a kid show would have.
Yes.
Well, a lot of shows have that. I love when they have that warning.
It was weird, really and then I realized, oh, this is a kid show actually. Holy shit! But
yeah.
Fairy Tail is. I think that's the point of kids shows too, because it's always repetitive, and like that's the kind of thing they always want. Like, oh, I can't wait for them to do that same move again. And
right. I mean,
there's no strategy.
I loved that shit when I was a kid watching Digimon. I loved that shit when I was 21 years old watching Digimon.
Hey, fucking Pokemon Sun and Moon is the best anime of all time.
I haven't watched it.
It's just the same thing over and over again.
What?
It's just the same thing like that.
Not really.
I wouldn't say it's the same thing over and over again, but nothing happens in it.
Right. Okay.
Well,
so you're just like when one thing happens, you're like, yeah, I love that shit. That's awesome. And
yeah, it's Pokemon the slice of life version.
Pokemon's awful because my boy Ash is yet to get a title under his belt, and that's garbage.
That's right.
He will forever be the underdog that never wins.
With a Greninja, he couldn't beat a Charizard. Like, what the fuck?
Yes, exactly. That's
how bad can you be,
dude? When he lost, that's when I turned my brain off. I'm like, this is ridiculous. A Greninja lost against Charizard. I was like, no.
That's a sign of a shitty trainer. That's what that is.
I don't know. Well, how do you get to the finals?
You know, I'm going to contradict myself because my whole stance on this is that there's no actual such thing as turning your brain off. But then I realize that I do have to turn my brain off whenever I watch Pokemon because the battles make absolutely no sense if you know how battling actually works in the game.
That's the thing, because when people were breaking down that final battle with the Mega Charizard and Greninja, people were bringing out numbers like, hey, Greninja had stab and did direct hit on Charizard. That's this X amount of points. You know, what were the levels between Greninja and Charizard? And like, you know, the rain dance was still in effect at the first half of that battle. And like, it was all really in-depth stuff that I agreed with. You know, I don't even keep up with Pokemon battling now, but it made a lot of sense. But in the anime, they're just like, no, you all may be right, but oh yeah, Ash lost still. even though he had advantage. I'm just like, oh, that's garbage. I can't do it.
Ash, more like ass, not even the good kind.
Oh god, like I haven't heard that one before.
Dude, thanks.
Dude,
I told you I'd have nothing to add to this podcast.
Well, like ass ketchup.
Oh no.
See, well, because the thing, I always try to think of turning your brain off as another way of saying don't think about it. Like a prime example, again, let's bring
It's
it
a
back
very
to,
simple, it's a very basic show kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like when I introduce people to Girls in Panzer, it's like, why are girls driving tanks? And I'm like, don't think about it. It's just the way the show
Why
is.
are the tanks drifting? Don't think about it.
Don't think about it.
Why do they call it Taekwondo?
Shut up, it's not called Taekwondo. It's not called Taekwondo. Don't think about it.
I low-key love that so much, actually.
God, it's so stupid. No. But that's the thing. There are a lot of shows with, like, really weird concepts or just ideas that really don't make sense. You look at Love Live, School Idols, no one cares. But there are other shows where it does give you a better experience if you try to really focus on some of the details in there that can give you more answers. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
mystery shows. Mystery shows, when you're trying to really figure out how this person died, and like you get more of an experience out of it, which I would argue is shows that require you to not think about certain details or turn your brain off are not as fun as shows where you have to use a bit more brain power or thinky power, as some fans would say.
Well, how do we define thinking power? Like,
That's where I'm kind of at I don't know. Like,
because you technically have to think about everything that you do, right? Even if it comes off as like instinctual, that's still your brain doing something, right?
do like,
I mean, if we were to be technical assholes about it, right?
well,
I don't
the
think
only
I don't think we
example.
want to be technical assholes about it.
No one wants to be that. The first time I encountered the whole like, wow, I should really pay attention to these details was in Naruto, which is another battle shonen. Because the beginning of Naruto
Naruto's like actually kind of smart in a lot of ways.
Exactly. Like there was the one scene that always stuck out was the beginning of the bridge arc when they fought Zabuza.
Mhm.
With the
there was
shuriken under the...
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all that was
under the
really
the kunai under the shuriken, yeah.
Yeah, there's that, and
was-
but one subtle detail that blew my mind was right as they walked out of the village, a couple yards they started. Kakashi found out that there was like a water ninja or mist ninja attacking him, and he knew it. And he's like, "Oh, I knew you guys are here because it didn't rain this week, and there's a puddle on the ground because the first shot of them
Yeah.
is walking past
Yeah.
puddles." And I was like, "Huh, I think I should pay attention to the show more, because there's only so many weird-eyed enemies we could look at. Like, when someone's the enemy when they give you the eye, like, oh, that guy's a bad guy. He's looking at the camera funny. But then if
Before
there's like
Before Naruto got to like the crazy OP shit, it actually really was like some 200 IQ shit going on.
Oh, absolutely. All of Shikamaru's fights were like...
yes,
I
Yeah.
had my shadow go under this freaking tunnel I made like 5 minutes ago and moved back around and used the shadow of your thing
the
floating in the
parachute?
sky. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the parachute.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what made me love Naruto back then, because a lot of it they always like emphasized like strategy, teamwork, and use your surroundings, and But then they got into like Dragon Ball Z mode, which is like whoever has the most chakra wins, and if you don't have chakra, you're pretty much, or you don't have a beast inside you, you're pretty much an irrelevant fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that's what makes me go into whole of Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z, in my opinion, is a very turn your brain off show. How do you win the fight? You shout louder. Oh, thank
You yell,
goodness
and
Goku
you yell,
remembered.
And you yell, and you power up, and then you beat him up.
Do this for like 30 episodes. It's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Like I can't remember the last time there was strategy involved in Dragon Ball. Or in Dragon Ball Z, or in any of the other ones.
No,
right now. It's just all like, Nani? There's someone stronger than me. I should train. And then he trains, and then he beats him. And that's great. I could watch that sometimes, but
It's hype.
it's hype. Yeah. You know where brain power really does come in sometimes is the really detailed sports shows like Haikyuu.
I guess. You really have to
Kind
know
of.
the rules to understand what's going on. You don't. It's hard to. I feel like shows where you have to think are better when there's actually ways to understand the characters. Well, I guess Haikyuu has some of that, but like understand the character better, or being able to try to figure out what's going to happen next. You can't really do that in a sports show because it's so reactionary.
It is.
True.
A lot of sports shonen is basically like reaction to a bunch of other stuff. Hajime no Ippo does the exact same thing. That's like literally Hajime no Ippo. It's just reactions upon reactions.
Yeah, you're right. But there are situations where you really didn't think about that, that factor. Like the one that I remember Smurf that you talked about was in Haikyuu when they were talking about the ace of the final team, and how he was left-handed, and they're like, blocking his shot is gonna be way more harder because everything's lefty. It's gonna be a lefty spin. And it's like, oh, never thought about that. Oh my god, it's like a whole new demon to deal with, and like it's crazy.
Yeah, but it's also then again like that's not really something that like there's like no hints towards that really or anything. Like it's not something you think about. You don't really think about how they're gonna do it. It's just like, oh, he's left-handed. Oh shit, that's crazy. And then the characters like immediately come up with like, okay, well here's how we're gonna deal. And then, so you don't really think about it.
True. Okay,
when I think of
card game
thinky shows, well, most card game shows just pull out a bunch of bullshit.
Just cards out of the air. Just like, oh yeah, I have this.
Yeah, they have a couple cards up their sleeves.
I got the perfect card for this exact moment.
Swords are up
Exodia. Oh, I have Exodia all of a sudden after one turn. But I always think of like I think you mentioned like mystery shows. Like, I guess
Detective
like
Conan.
the most recent one that comes to mind for me was I just watched Haruhi over the past couple weeks, and they have a mystery, like a little mystery arc. And
the island.
And I figured it out immediately. As soon as the episode was happening, I was like, oh, I bet this is what happened, based on clues that had come up in the past. And then as we went forward, as they discovered clues, I was like, oh yeah, like what I thought was being pieced together, and then it turned out to be true. So I was like, okay, cool. Like that was fun. I got to think about it, and I got to try to figure it out myself, and then it ended up being true. But then there's other mystery shows which are more turn your brain off, where they just don't give you any clues at all. Like Roku no Yusha has an issue with that, where they just kind of pull shit out of nowhere. Like, oh yeah, I found this thing that's like the ultimate clue, but he found it off screen, and they never told the audience about it.
Oh yeah.
See that
until he's like, come with me, guys. I'll show you this super important clue I found that the audience didn't even know about.
Like you at least want a subtle hint at the beginning of the episode where they show like a shot of something, and you try to think, is that going to be a factor later on? Yep, it's going to be a factor later on. You know, that I appreciate.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say it's got to be shows where you really try hard to anticipate what's going to happen next. Like I think Psycho Pass was like one where it had a mystery aspect to it because the entire city was being controlled by this being of like, what's the Sybil system? Oh, the Sybil system is this system that like lets you find who a criminal is easily, and the whole time you're thinking, like, what is it? Like, because not even they answer what Sybil system is; they just follow. And that's the mystery on top of it. So when there's something like that, so where you try to figure out why something exists and why is this the basis of everything that happens in this setting, that's where you get more of an experience out of it. Yeah. But that's not like on the level of like, oh, why does chakra exist? Then there's times like, oh, chakra is just, that's the thing. Like
that's just a part of the world, but it's never really made
why
as
does
like
air exist?
Elusive.
Yeah, why does air exist? Like, yeah, or like an Attack on Titan. Till this day, we're still trying to find out where these titans are coming from, even though they're the main enemy. You know, and it's always fun. I always like how people try to do like fan theories. I always think that those are really fun to read, especially with shows that are really popular. And sometimes it does affect your experience when you start reading those because you start agreeing with it and hoping that that theory is true or not.
It's even more fun when you've read the manga and you know the answers and you get to read all the fan theories.
Yeah, I heard about what's in the basement. I was really disappointed. Not gonna lie.
Really? It's pretty interesting. I thought.
I thought it was interesting too.
It leads to some interesting stuff, so I'm excited to see what people think about it. But that's unrelated.
Wait, are we gonna get to the basement next season?
Most likely. I think so.
I didn't want to say that.
I might have to. Well, we'll edit this out. Sure. Bacon, you're editing this out, right? Right, buddy?
Wait. What do I have to edit out?
Because you're editing it.
Yeah, but what do I have to edit out?
Because it's like potential spoilers.
I guess it's not really a spoiler because season 3 ended with them saying, we're now going to go there to go to the basement.
Oh, yeah, that's shit, well, never mind, dude.
So I guess
we definitely need to edit this part out now.
Well, I'll think of something dank, don't worry.
No, you won't.
I never do.
Is it going to be like SpongeBob transitions? Because those
probably.
Were great.
I should.
Those were great.
Shut
I was
up.
a fan of that.
A few inches later.
But so what to you was a show that required the most brain power from you? Anyone want to admit how much they
Like in a good way or in a bad way? How do we interpret
let's do
this?
both and just increase chances of us to talk about it.
Okay, let me look at my list.
There's probably some like Satoshi Kon stuff that requires a lot of thinking, I would assume.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so I've seen actually Perfect Blue is like kind of a good example of this. I think a little bit.
Yeah.
Where I've seen this movie 3 times now, and like every time I get something different out of it. There's always little details. To where in the third time I feel like I've totally got it now. Like there was first time you watch it, you kind of just like experience the surrealness of it, and you don't really make all the connections. Second time you get a little bit more connections. Third time you kind of get like the whole thing, right? That's a good experience of like it's something that you have to keep thinking about when you're watching, I guess, because it doesn't really tell you, oh, this is dream and this is like dream and this is reality. Like you kind of have to figure it out yourself by the end of it, which is kind of fun for me personally, because my favorite movie is American Psycho, which deals with like reality and surreality. I don't know if that's the right
Surreal
word.
stuff.
Surrealness, yeah. And doesn't really tell you which one is like real and which one isn't, so you kind of have to like actively think about, well, is this real or is this not real? But yeah, I think that's a great example of something that you would have to turn your brain on, so to speak, right?
Speaking of mysteries, the first time I saw Perfect Blue, I actually like got the mystery of like the bedroom scene towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like I realized where they were going with it, and like all the just noticing the details in the dialogue in the background. I'm just like, oh shit, this is happening.
You know, my favorite part of the movie is where the fax machine like turns into background music. That's the best part. Like, I don't know if anyone else picked up on that, but I picked up on it.
I don't even know. I have to go watch it now.
Okay, so there's a scene where there's a
watch
fax
it,
machine going, and it like actually like turns into like a sample for background music, and it's like really interesting. It doesn't really like mean anything, but like I just thought that was like really I thought that was just a cool little detail.
It just like transitions.
Yeah, it transitions into
music.
like background music, which I thought was.
That sounds pretty cool though.
I actually noticed it the third time watching, and I was like, "Holy shit, this movie's like genius! Oh my god!" But yeah, no, it's a good example of that.
So you're saying if I watch that, I'll get like a higher IQ at the end of it? Nice.
I don't know. Well, people like to joke about like things giving you higher IQ, and I think that gives a bad stigma for certain shows, right? But I think that might speak for more of like fan bases than the shows themselves, or it's a little bit of both. I think.
You need a high
only
IQ.
show that raises your IQ is Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Yeah. Okay. So I've seen about 12 episodes of that, and I gotta say, apparently it gets better after the first
Apparently
core.
it gets better, yeah.
Yeah, it gets better as it goes on, right?
Well,
Maz,
I mean,
right?
I've been told this by like numerous friends, but like I'd actually have to see it to believe it. But like so far, it's just a lot of like economics, politics, stuff like that, and some people aren't really into that. Like,
Which is a lot of Gundam series.
I was mostly joking. I always hear that kind of a lot of the strategy is kind of almost a little turn your brain off, because they do space battles on a 2D plane. So you can't really think about that too much. Like, why don't they just go above and below? Like, but it's like, oh, that's not a thing here. Like, this show was written, I guess, to like be basically naval combat in space. So they don't go like above and below.
they also have axes. So
They also have
there's that.
battle axes.
Okay, actually, no. The battle axes make sense because if you like use a laser in a
If you
spaceship, that'll create a
Yeah.
hole, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, that's actually really smart. I always thought that was really stupid. Then I realized that's why they did.
I
that.
mean, it's a little dumb because you can.
It's funny because it's battle axes, but it makes sense in the setting, I guess.
Right. You can have something that's way more practical than a battle axe, like a sword.
Yeah.
Or
You
the
know, swords would
blade.
actually kind of make sense in that, like, that whole aesthetic, actually, low key, because
The battle axe
they
just
still have
seems
a
out
bunch
of
of like
place.
royalty and stuff like that in that show.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Would you agree that there are shows that do the thinking for you?
Or
Kinda
like
Death
kind of
Note.
explain everything. Like, do you mean like exposition kind of thing that like it kind of explains everything
also,
to you?
I'm looking through my list, and I just feel dumber by the day. But the thing is that like because all these shows were like shows I would say like, oh yeah, it's just a good show. It doesn't really require much brain power.
What do you
The
mean
only
in
show, like,
particular?
one show in particular that sticks out is Death Note, Death Note to me is a fun cat and mouse try to two characters outsmarting each other.
I think that show
And
was
us, we're
intent,
just
written as like
witnessing
a fun, entertaining show. I think
It is
from
a
the
shonen,
get-go.
so it's not like they expect the audience.
It was
to be
written
like,
in like 20
oh,
pages
people.
per chapter or something like really easy to consume, an easy story to tell like weekly, right? Like
Right.
Wasn't it Shonen Jump?
yeah, that
It
was
was,
Shonen
yeah.
Jump.
Interesting.
Well, I was gonna think like something that kind of does the thinking for you would be something like JoJo with how much exposition it has. It's constantly explaining everything that's happening.
I'm
okay,
surprised we haven't
I
named
got
JoJo
bone to
yet.
pick with JoJo first of all when it comes to the whole brain thingy.
Okay, I mean, I just mean like
Yo, the
like,
only thing
it'll-
big brain about JoJo is King Crimson. No,
I
but
just
it
mean,
makes sense
it'll
actually.
explain like what's going on. Like earlier on, like in part 5, when Jono is fighting Black Sabbath, and he makes like the vines, and the vines like collapse and expose more. Like he turns like the railing into vines, so when it collapses, it exposes King Crimson. It gets rid of some of the shadow.
Right.
Or not King Crimson. Sorry, Black Sabbath. And it's kind of like Jordan will then just go, "Oh, I changed the railing into vine so that when they did this, the sunlight would hit this, which would make him like." It just kind of explains every detail as it's going, and it kind of. I know a lot of people kind of feel insulted by that in the anime, where they're like, "Yeah, you don't have to tell me; I can see it clearly." Like, you don't have to tell me every single thing that's happening, but it kind of does the thing. It kind of tries
It's
to.
like,
do
hey,
the
we
thinking for
paid
you.
big money. We paid big money for these voice actors. They're gonna talk as much as they need to. All right.
Well,
I don't mind that. I don't mind that because at least it gives you the information beforehand, and then the explanation is just piecing it together. It's a lot worse when. Do any of you guys watch Ruby?
I've
watched
seen like a
two
couple
seasons.
episodes.
like the first season.
Because Ruby, the first 3 seasons are fine, but Ruby has become a show where nothing ever fucking happens because all the characters have to explain everything about the plot before it ever happens, and it's the most boring show ever. And it's like, to me, it feels like the writers are trying to say, "Hey guys, just so you know, we definitely thought of everything. Don't worry." But it just comes off so uselessly and
Right.
shit.
That makes I have not caught up on Ruby, but I'd be curious to see what I think about that when I get to it.
Like, oh, please explain everything to me, please. The thing with JoJo is half of it is trying to figure things out. Because the thing I have the most fun with is trying to figure out what the stand power is and how they're gonna defeat it based off of the stands you've already seen beforehand with our heroes. That's where with me I'm just like, what is this power, you know? And because with how crazy JoJo is, you can make a power about anything. But then on the
Literally
other side,
anything.
yeah, and with the other side of it is that there are times in JoJo where I guess I'm relating ass pulls to don't think about it kind of deal. But there are just times where I'm just like, okay, that's a stretch, you know? One is like the whole unlocking of the whole like it's the part 3
Are we talking
final
about part
battle.
3?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I say
I'll
this?
be right back.
I know what you're talking
Later.
about. You're talking about the Star Platinum thing. At
Yeah,
end
the
of
Star
part
Platinum thing. When that happened, I was like, okay, I kind of see where they're going with that, but that was kind
It
of
almost feels like Araki kind of wrote himself into a corner a little bit.
yeah.
A little bit.
It has happened before.
Yeah.
He's pretty open about when that happens. There's a later villain in JoJo. I'm not gonna say when he's from because that's kind of a spoiler. But there's a point where all the heroes are fighting some villain, and Araki just made the villain like way too overpowered. And in an interview, he actually said he was like, "That was the first time I was writing, and I had no idea how they were gonna win."
Yeah, Araki
He went-
seems
he
like
went,
he kind
"Wait,
of writes
how did they beat
like
this guy? I
as
have
he
no
goes
idea."
kind of thing.
I'm back.
Welcome back. The thing is, yeah, that's the only thing about JoJo that I'm in the middle about. Like, don't get me wrong, it's great, but there are times I'm just like, I feel like that doesn't really happen, you know, because the thing with stand powers is that the way they describe it at the very beginning is that it's a manifestation of your willpower. That's a turn your brain off kind of term right there, because you can't measure willpower. It's not like power.
I mean, the
levels.
concept of willpower has always been kind of big brain.
Yeah,
low-key.
yeah. There's no specific number that attaches to willpower. That's like saying, oh, you know why Seahawks lost that Super Bowl? They just didn't want it.
They just
like,
didn't
no,
have the
the other
willpower
team-
to win.
The other team wanted it more.
Yeah, the other team wanted it more, which is a really dumb saying when it comes to like coaching or telling kids like why they lost. Dude, they were just skillfully better than you.
I was literally listening to an NFL podcast today, and they were talking about how the Saints wanted it more than the Steelers, and that's why they won.
It's just like, yeah, that's kind
I
of a
don't-
dumb thing to say. Like, who are you to say that the other team wanted it more? Like, they both want, both teams want to win. Like,
Yeah, both
holy
teams want to win
shit.
very badly. At that point, you're just gonna say, you know what helped them win the Super Bowl? Their friendship power. Like, no, just say teamwork
Nah,
and skills.
like a
and
number
that's
of things just went really well for one
Yeah.
team.
it. Exactly.
Yeah.
like that pass interference in the first quarter.
Yeah.
damn.
Have fun with that. But yeah, that's my whole thing with JoJo. It's still a great show for like trying to figure out the stands and trying to figure out the powers. But especially what's gonna happen in part 5 is where I have the biggest problem with. But that's a whole different thing for when part 5 ends.
We'll get to
Because
it.
I wanted to
Because
say that
personally, I
JoJo
don't
is like
like
my
how it
go-to
ends.
example for a quote-unquote turn your brain off show. That's not to say that it's a bad show or a dumb show, although it can be kind of stupid sometimes. But like,
Yeah.
I don't go to JoJo the same thing I would go to like, what's an example of something that's like completely different? Like Fooly Cooly,
Monogatari.
maybe.
Fully Cool is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, Fooly Cooly is like, they're completely different shows that intend to do very different things. JoJo is like a fun, like, I hate to use the word fun because it's very vague, but like it's a fun adventure story, like through and through, right?
Right.
With
yeah.
a bunch of characters that you just want to see do stuff, and that's fine.
And
like
it's really colorful, and they're all wacky, and
they're all bizarre, you would say.
you could say that.
Yeah, but like I think Araki's always just wanted to write a fun story with a bunch of fun characters every time. That's what
Pretty much.
Yeah, that seems to be what his
kinda just has,
intention
like,
is.
What he's writing, what he thinks would be cool. Like, basically, he's sitting down. He goes, "What would be cool to have happen? Oh, this would be cool. This would be a cool power. I'm going to write that down."
JoJo is the rule of cool, actually, in like a lot of ways. Like,
Dude, look at their style. Look at the way they dress.
everything,
man.
a lot of music references to whatever he's listening to at the time or stuff. Yeah.
Making me feel so horny.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Yes.
One of the best endings ever.
Dude.
From our time.
Yo, shout out to Rocky for listening to baby making music while writing part 5.
Dude,
I've heard
and
that
then
part
I-
5 is actually the horniest parts of like all the JoJo.
part 5
It's
is
pretty-
the horniest part. I love
It's
it.
pretty sexual. Just look at their outfits. Look
Okay,
at the way
yeah.
that Giorno
Just
gets
look
on-
at the
on
way they're
Golden
dressed,
Experience.
man.
Dude,
Just
look
look
at
at the way
the midriffs.
Giorno gets up on Gold Experience in the
The gold
train.
experience. Isn't there
He's, like,
pee in
has,
part
like, his
5?
yeah, he
Dude,
drank pee
they're-
early on.
Is that the gold
He did.
experience?
Yeah, he drank golden experience. From
Oh god.
so good.
But
Sorry, I don't want to shit on JoJo, but you know.
I mean, that's fine. I'll shit on it too, kind of. I mean, I'll make fun of it.
I haven't even
It's-
seen
it's-
part 5,
It's
but like
easy to make fun of, while I also think it's well.
it is kind of like, I don't know what the word is, like it's a meme factory. It makes memes. Like it's kind of a meme machine in a lot of ways. I don't know if its like intent is to make memes, but like damn does it make some memes. You know?
I feel like it toes the line well. It's like some shows you would say, "Oh, that's a meme show," but I feel like JoJo. I feel like it's the kind of show where it's
I think
a
a
good
lot of
show that
meme
just
shows-
makes a lot of memes.
a good way to describe a meme show is like a one-trick pony almost. Like a JoJo feels like way more than just a one-trick pony. Like it's got a lot of other things. Like
A
it has
meme show
memes.
to me is something that people don't really like, but just kind of like ironically praise, like Pingu.
Pingu's like a kid's show, right?
Yeah, but like there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, 10 out of 10 masterpiece. We might as well just cancel anime because Pingu's the best it's ever going to be." Like it's just kind of a meme show. Like even if it can still be good, but it's turned into a giant meme.
Same with Citrus.
Or
Okay, I think
Citrus.
we turned Citrus into a giant meme actually.
Except
Except Bacon. Bacon like got off
Yeah.
to it. Which
No, I
is
didn't.
Bacon-
I
It
sent
It
you
was me and
those
There's a
Finn
PMs.
who
screen-
did that.
I sent you
Bacon.
those PMs in confidence.
No.
All right, and I was just joking.
You put it
But
in the
still.
secret channel, you dumbass.
Yeah, it's a secret
That's fair
channel.
game.
I thought it was a secret channel just for us.
Not
No,
anymore.
but
Damn it. Look, I'll say it right now, Citrus, like,
is
whatever,
Citrus to
it's-
turn your brain off and turn your dick on?
Dude,
Turn
well,
your-
Are you
It's-
turning
it's
on your
turn-
different head?
It's
You're turning on your
turning
second.
on your other brain.
My other brain.
You think with your other brain.
You're thinking with your.
Well, I think that's what kept me watching, is because my brain was just constantly firing. Like, it was a great show.
God damn, why do you have to describe it like that?
Why do you have to make those noises? What are you doing?
What is
What
this,
do
like
you-
the
what-
clean version of jizz in my pants? Like, where they have like,
Yes.
in my pants?
I just imagine.
Yes.
I just imagine the gif of that guy. Like the sound you made makes me think of the gif of that guy who like opens the door and like makes that like shocked face. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I just kept on
Kind of?
thinking about. I kept on thinking about Randy from South Park, going like, "Oh, there's ectoplasm everywhere."
Oh God. Oh.
There's like some meme from like some old movie where the guy like opens the door and then he's all shocked and he's like, "What?" And his like head's like going side to side. It's like really exaggerated.
Oh,
It kind of
okay.
reminds me of that scene from like Daddy Daycare where Eddie Murphy just like opens the bathroom door and he's just
yeah, the kid
disgusted
missed.
by everything.
Yeah, apparently, like it's supposed to be in your
The
imagination.
kid just
It's like,
missed,
"What'd you do?" "Oh,
quote
I missed
unquote.
everything." The only other show I could think of in terms of that needed, I wouldn't say brain power, but you know what I'm talking about, is have you guys seen Higurashi?
I have.
Oh, that's a big mystery show, right?
Yeah, well, they always center the same events around the same like festival, right? They kept on talking about this festival about the festival where these orcs tore the guts out of humans and washed them in the river. That's why we call it the cotton drifting like festivals and stuff like that, because we put cotton in the river. And every time during the time of that festival, something big happened, whether it was like a character death or someone got kidnapped or there's a big conspiracy going on that kind of centers around a character that leads them to suffer in some weird way. That show, constantly I was just thinking like, okay, what is this curse of the river, or what is this curse that's like surrounding this village? And every time a bad thing happened and they reset the setting, it just made you think to yourself like, during this time someone's either pulling the strings, or maybe there is a curse and there's no way to stop it. That's the kind of
that's a
stuff
show.
I like.
That's a show like the whole first season doesn't explain a damn thing. And it just happens, and then people
Figure it
die,
out.
and then seemingly
Is season 2 like the
everything's
answer
back to
season,
normal.
and like season 1 is
Yeah.
like the question season? I haven't
Yes.
seen season 2, so like, yeah, I
Okay,
still got
so
the questions.
So you know,
Dude,
like
you gotta
season
watch
one,
it.
they'll do like an arc where like everybody dies, and then the next episode everything's seemingly fine, and then like everyone dies again.
Like a
And
visual
just-
novel.
They just keep doing that, and it's like, what is happening? And then season 2 is when they kind of shift the focus of the show a little bit to a different person, and then that kind of explains. You see them going through it all, and it's like, oh, that explains everything. Like then it explains everything, but even then there's still some mystery. You're like, well, who's the real bad guy though? Like I don't know, and there are hints every now and again.
Or like
So
the
that-
same
that one you
same
kinda gotta think
recurring
about.
people, the same recurring people would like show up, and you're just thinking like, okay, that guy's got to be bad news, because every time something bad happens, he's here. Or every time this girl appears here, you know, like, or all these people are treating you like garbage, there's got to be a reason why this is going on.
Yep. Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I watched it that was the show that I watched with a friend. So we were talking to each other the entire time we watched it, and we were just constantly throwing theories back and forth with each other, like, I just noticed this detail, like that's interesting. I wonder if that means this, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, I actually think that means this thing. And we kind of just try to piece it together as we go.
And that's what adds on to like your experience too. Like it shows you're emotionally invested into the show when you start trying to piece together yourself of what you think is going to happen, regardless if you're right or wrong. So would you say that people who have that kind of experience are having more fun with the shows they watch, or are people who are turning their brains off not having a fun experience like that?
I think with a show like that, I think you have to at least be thinking a bit. Like,
Right.
I feel like you're gonna have more fun turning your brain off for a show that has problems with the writing, or like plot holes or something. Like something if you just don't think about it, if you just go, okay, that's kind of silly, but whatever, I'm just gonna let it slide.
Which I do say a lot in a lot
I
of
feel
shows
like
I watch.
that's turning your brain off, and I think you'll have a better time with those kind of shows. But if it's a show like Higurashi that has a lot of mystery and things that aren't quite what they seem, you kind of need to be thinking about it a little bit.
I think for me, my biggest problem is there are times where I really don't understand something and I have to use a separate source in order to explain it. For me, I just finished Initial D, and it's a lot of racing.
You have to think. Wait, hold on. You had to look up a secondary source to understand what happened in Initial D?
Well, I was looking at YouTube comments, but there are parts in Initial D where they talked about different gear shifting.
That sounds like a bad idea, Bacon.
It's just like
YouTube comments, yes, the most intuitive or
one of the most intellectual
encyclopedic,
places.
the most encyclopedic resource for Initial D.
Quite the
You're not
powerhouse
wrong.
of scholarly people.
You're not wrong. I was just looking up old scenes that I thought were really hype, but then. Because a lot of people would question, well, why did that guy lose the race when he had this kind of car? And then someone would explain, well, he had this kind of gear.
It's because he
inside his
didn't
car.
want it enough.
Dude, no. my
He
car
had the
didn't want
willpower
it
in his car.
God, no. Don't you dare say that around me.
He needed to refuel on willpower.
You're stupid.
I've had those kind of shows, though, where I had to look up what happened after. Like NGE, I had to look up a video explaining to me what the hell happened in the entire show.
Yeah, and that's why that show's still not that good.
Okay,
Bacon.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm not gonna get.
You don't have to be a dick, Bacon. Gee.
Dude, I'm sorry. Sorry I couldn't understand it off my first watch.
I can understand not getting End of Ava. I could kind of... I think NGE is a little bit easier to understand. Arguable. I think NGE is actually like really easy to understand, low-key.
There's parts I figured out enough to understand.
Like, I rewatched it recently, and it made a lot more... Like, I think I got a little bit more, but I feel like I got, like, the main point by the end. TBH.
I got the point. Like,
yeah.
Like, the message I got...
Whether you get, like, small, like, details is another thing, right? Like,
but, like, the whole plot... Like,
but, like,
exactly
episode to
what
episode
Eve
is a little
and
bit
Adam
different.
are supposed to be... Like, exactly what Lilith and Adam are, and what their connection is to each other, and what the
I've
hell the
always
first
found
impact
that
is,
was
and all
kind
this
of, like, not the bigger... picture was like kind of smaller details in the bigger picture, sort of.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, I don't know if I'm like about to derail the whole conversation here.
Go ahead, buddy.
I would say that NGE is actually another example of like a sort of thing where we were talking earlier about like some things, how they don't need to be explained. Like, how does this exist? I think for NGE, it's like, how do like the giant robots exist? Where's the technology for this come from and shit? I don't actually know. I don't think that's explained anyway. I don't remember.
Okay, there's an episode where they go into magma, and it's like not really doesn't really make sense.
How are
but
you
like
guys
that's
in
something.
Magma without just melting?
Yeah,
it's all this shit.
that episode
but really,
is like low key really dank, but like I still love it. Like,
But-
I don't know if that was really the point. It's okay. Actually, Fooly Cooly is a really good example of this, where like you don't really need to know like the smaller details about the world or the setting to understand what Fooly Cooly is about. And like Progressive kind of shits on this a little bit by like explaining a lot of things, and then like, oh, do I really wanted that? Did I really want that explanation about Haruko? Not really, fam. But
Nobody's gonna watch.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna watch Fooly Cooly and come away with it going, well, that didn't just. How did the seaweed work?
what
That
the
doesn't
fuck
make
is the
sense."
space pirate? Like,
what matters most?
They don't even have boats in space.
I would say-
What the fuck is a space pirate?
I would say instead of turning my whole concept is that instead of turning your brain off for those sorts of things, instead keep your brain on and just focus on other things.
Focus on what's
really
more important,
It's
right?
about the themes of NGE and Fooly Cooly.
think
right?
about like what it's trying to say, basically.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, don't get like bogged down in like small details. and
All
stuff
I
like that.
remember is Shinji nutting and choking out Asuka, and the fight at the end. That was a cool fight.
That was end of, but yes.
End of, yes, yes. And the clapping.
a-
That's all I remember. Like
The
I
clapping
will
was
say this:
not end of. Don't worry.
NGE is due for a rewatch in my mind. I do want to give it another chance, but
I do.
But for now, we're just gonna keep hating on it, Bacon. Is that how it's gonna be?
oh yeah, hating on it's really
Oh
fun.
yeah, for sure, dude.
Yeah, dude. It's that and Dragon Ball Super. Those are really fun to
I
hate
think
on.
if we wouldn't have, since we're talking about Fooly Cooly, I think Fooly Cooly is a victim of people turning their brain off for it when they shouldn't be. 'Cause
Okay,
feel
yeah, I
like
kind of get where you're coming
Interesting.
from, because I think
I
there's a
feel like
little bit of like
there's a
there's a
lot of-
stigma that it doesn't make sense a
there's
lot of the time.
Fooly Cooly is just also random XD and doesn't make any sense. You're supposed to just watch it and have fun with the visuals.
And you
It's
can
like-
have, and you actually can do that and have like a great audio-visual experience.
Exactly.
Right,
But like,
then
there's
on
a
your
lot
second
going on.
watch, you
and I
get
kind of
a so much
respect
better
people
experience.
that just appreciate it for that. If you don't really get like I don't know the what's the word, substance to it, like that's fine. But like to say that there isn't is kind of disingenuous. I think like to just like deny that there is any substance to Fooly Cooly is like
right, exactly.
bad. Like,
That
you
I
don't have
disagree
to
with.
get it to appreciate it, I feel like, but there's, like, so much more to it if you do.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah. It's
I do think that there's been, like,
kind
a
of a
stigma
disservice.
against it for a long time, that it's like, oh, I want to smoke whatever those writers were smoking or something.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know, like, kind of disrespectful stuff like that. Just because they went outside of the box for something, like, for a very, like, easy to understand. Well, I think it's easy to understand, like, coming of age story. They just went. Like,
I mean, I'm pretty
really different.
I'm
with
pretty
it.
dumb when it comes to picking up on things, and I understood just
Same.
about all of Fulikuli when I watched it the first time. I remember you sent me that link that like explained it, and I picked up on every single detail except for one tiny one. There was like one thing in that whole comment that I didn't.
It's a
pick up
coming
on.
of age story, right?
Yeah, no, like what I mean, like it's a coming of age story about like puberty and a lot of,
I mean,
and it's
that
also
stuff,
about a
but I
lot of
just
other
mean, like,
things.
Yeah.
I just mean like the whole plot involving her, like where she's from, what her goal is, why she picks Naota, what's his name? Naota, why she picks him, like all this stuff about like the actual plot of the show, which is kind of the part that people just go, it's just random, it doesn't make any sense, but like I was able to pick up on like all of that, and I'm pretty dumb when it comes to picking up on things.
So
There's
what
a
you're
reason I
saying
don't
is,
like
So what we're saying is, everyone go watch Fooly Cooly, but don't watch the sequels.
Everyone should watch Fulikuli, and I'm gonna watch the sequels at a later date because I haven't seen them yet.
I haven't finished Alternative. I want to because it's actually like kind of worthwhile as far as sequels go, but like, I don't have the motivation personally.
so I remember you mentioned the whole like, oh, I want to smoke whatever those writers are smoking kind of deal, right? And that's kind of a weird way to describe that anime. Where would Pop Team Epic fall under?
Well, Pop Team Epic is
It's
just
all
memes
there.
as far as I know, right? Like,
Yeah.
Hardcore
Pop
meth.
Team Pop Team Epic is it's nothing and everything at the same time.
Pop Team Epic is literally also Random XD. That's the entire point of the show.
Yeah.
it seems like it's just a show that just like references a bunch of pop culture stuff.
Pretty much.
Feels like,
Well,
which
like
is great.
I watched half of the first episode. Once it started looping, because each episode is the same thing twice.
Which is kind of funny in and of it. Like not necessarily the
Different
execution,
time.
but the concept of it is funny.
On paper, it's funny, but when you actually have to sit through it, and if you didn't like it the first time, and then it starts up a second time, you're just like, fuck this.
I kind of appreciate that they did that like 12 times. Like, that's actually really funny.
I like
and they
that
had
when
like different voice actors for each one. Holy
Yes.
shit!
I
It's
like
actually
that when
good.
I think when episode 8 came out, they just aired it 8 times in a row on
God.
TV. So
God.
they did their own endless 8. But
So what do you think about? They're the most brilliantly like well done show ever.
I don't even know if it's
But-
brilliant, but like it's ambitious. I think
it's literally just like
Sticks out.
Pop Team Epic is, and also it doesn't have any kind of narrative or anything. It's literally just like it's a
well,
four
it's
koma.
based on a 4 coma as far as
Yeah,
I know. So
it's
like,
just a random 4 koma, like of just like.
it's
lots
basically
random
of like
jokes.
shit posting
It-
the anime. Like,
It's really, I think, just an experimental thing because it has so many different art styles and all these weird artists.
and a lot of
like,
them look really nice too. Like,
who like a lot of things that are in Pop Team Epic are made by people who haven't even worked in anime before.
yo, it's
Like,
not
they're
the new
just, like-
Space Dandy. It's
They're
experimental. as
just
fuck.
doing stuff.
And like then there's like that whole Hellshake Yano, which isn't even animated.
Yeah.
It's literally just the 2 guys with a bunch of paper.
Well, that's
doing, like,
still
a-
animation technically.
flip-
Like,
I mean, it's not.
it's
I mean,
not
I
like
guess.
it's not like like conventional animation.
In a very, very, very traditional sense, it is.
Like it wasn't like a flip book like animation. Like it was actually like they would flip over the paper and you have a guitar and then they'd narrate like it was more like a picture book of sorts, if I could say. It wasn't like
Yeah.
animated, but it was like telling a story through pictures. Just like a series of like obviously that's what animation is. It's a series of still.
Imagine that. It's telling a story through pictures.
But it was like not. I don't know. They didn't try to do it like it was animated. They weren't trying to make like a flipbook animation or anything. If you haven't seen Hellshake Yano, I mean, you could just watch it on YouTube. That's all I did. I just saw it on YouTube. I didn't actually watch the episode, but it was pretty interesting how they made it. Like, I mean, I was impressed by it. I still think that Pop Team Epic is dumb, and it's I hate it. But I was impressed.
There's a really funny. I'm not sure if anyone follows like Anime Maru, that satire.
Yeah, I follow
news website. I was cracking up really hard when Pop Team Epic was airing, and they had a news thing that said, "Guy who understands all of Pop Team Epic's references is full of shit," and I'm just like, take that, our anime, take that. You think you know everything? Get out of here. So, what would you say you how would you guys think you guys score or like rate anime series based off of how much fun you had analyzing the show, or shows that did require you to not use any brain power? Do you score those differently, or do you see a trend inside your mal list?
Okay, so here's how I do it. So I rate off of enjoyment, right?
Same with me.
And if that's part of my enjoyment, then yeah, I guess that kind of factors into the score. But it's not like something I actively look for a whole lot, if that makes sense. Like, if that happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, then like if it's a show that I find really stupid and I don't enjoy it because it's really stupid, it's not like a fun or like silly stupid or lighthearted, then like yeah, it's probably gonna get a lower score and I don't enjoy it. If it's like
fair enough,
something that I would analyze and think about, or it doesn't even have to be like, I don't know, super intellectual for me to think about like after I watch it, right? Like I think about Gretzko, right?
I love
months
Gretzko.
After I watched it, right? Like it's not even like particularly like quote unquote deep or anything or like analytical, but like it's super relatable. Like I think about it a lot personally, just the characters and everything. But like that means a lot to me if I can think about it after I watch it, sort of thing.
Right, I know what you're saying. I can't think of an example, but I had a show recently that I watched, and I was just still thinking about it for a while. What was it? I don't remember what it was.
Was it Disappearance?
It could have been Disappearance, yeah.
It wasn't Disappearance. Oh,
I saw you gave it a 9, so I assume that you thought about it a little bit.
Mostly thinking about while I was watching it. I didn't really think about it afterwards, but I had a lot of thought into it while I was watching it. Like, trying to figure out what it was. And, like, when they're like, you know, oh, we need you to go and, you know, this person, not because it's not like a gun.
Damn, that's actually kind of spoilers.
Well,
Damn.
I mean, you know what
You're
I mean.
good.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know the
yeah.
part I'm talking about. I'm trying to be vague enough, but
No, I know what scene you're talking about.
When they
It's a good scene.
didn't explicitly tell the audience
Why?
who the who the cause of everything was, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm still sitting there like, oh, I wonder who it is. I'm like, maybe it's this person. I could see it being this. Like I'm trying to think in my head the whole time. I'm like, man, who could this be? It must be this person or this person or this person. So I mean, I did a lot of thinking while I was watching it, but I don't know. I'm thinking more of, there was some show I watched recently that was really turning your brain off, but it was the finale of Golden Kamuy season 2.
Oh, you know,
I
that
spent
show
a
is
lot
like a
of
very
time-
like entertaining show, quote unquote, sort of thing.
That's
A
what
lot
I
of people
think.
say it's similar to JoJo, which I can see
It's
where they're coming
definitely adventure with a bunch of like wacky characters and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
from. Yeah, exactly, and a lot of comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not a comedic show, I would say like JoJo. Like I was
Yeah,
saying,
it is.
I don't call JoJo comedy.
JoJo
but
is
I
way
call it
like
comedy.
more comedic than Golden Kamuy, even though Golden Kamuy has a decent amount of humor. Like it's got a lot of funny reaction faces, I would say.
And there was a whole like aphrodisiac part of season 2 where all
What?
the dudes were like trying to bang each other.
What? Wait.
They were all in a bath. They were all in like a sauna together, and someone brought in like otter meat or something, like something that apparently has aphrodisiac in it when you cook it. And so all of these dudes, like all the muscly dudes, were like in a bathhouse together, and all got filled with like this aphrodisiac. So they're all trying to like wrestle and like.
Oh, God.
It's all like they're all sweaty and all trying to like
Go
fight each
on.
other. It was pretty funny.
Go
But
on.
when I finished the finale of that, even though it's not really a show you really think about, like there's not a whole lot. It kind of explains everything as it goes.
But
There's
it's
not
still
really
fun
any-
to watch. Like it's still really enjoyable.
Oh, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I finished season 2, I'm mostly about the eye catch of season 2 of the season 2 finale. I had to like pause because I didn't want to go on to the next. I wanted to just keep thinking about what I just watched. So I was like, man, this is crazy. So I just thought about it for a while because it was really intense and there were a lot of answers suddenly. Like there was a lot of questions in Golden Kamuy and they answered a lot of them at once, and I just had to pause it and just think over everything that was happening. So I guess I had that. And that's not really a show I would consider a show that you have to really
You have to
think about
analyze or
while you watch
anything.
it.
Yeah. It's just kind of a fun show. Like that's all I really saw it as, is like, yeah, this is like enjoyable to watch. I like where this is going.
Have you seen season 2 or only season 1?
I'm planning to read the manga at some point.
Okay. Yeah.
For my friend Nos.
Yes, he wants me to read the manga as well. I'm tempted to after season 2 because season 2 ended on a note where I really, really want to know what happens next. All of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I have to know what happens next. Like,
I would probably have fun reading it like weekly or monthly or something. Like, oh, this week's Golden Kamuy was fun or something. Like,
right. I do that with I have a few manga that I really enjoy reading weekly, and then I have a few where I'm just like, God damn it, give me the next chapter now. What are you?
Yeah, One Piece, please.
Like Boku no Hero, with its 14-page chapters recently. It's like, the last chapter was 12 pages. Like, come on, you can't do that.
Oh shit.
You can't just give me 12 pages.
And I thought 20 pages was kind of short for a chapter.
20 is like typical Shonen Jump.
Yeah, I know. I remember Gantz having
been,
that same thing.
I think Horikoshi's
like
been like a little sick lately, so he's been doing less. So he's been
I
doing
enjoyed that. Like Fullmetal Alchemist was like 40 pages because that was monthly. That was nice.
Attack on Titan's 40. I guess it's the only monthly I read. And JoJo is also like 40, 45.
Because it changed to monthly at some point.
Yeah, when it jumped to Ultra Jump. Part 7.
Mm-hmm.
So it's seinen now.
It will always be shonen to me, to be honest.
I think the last thing I watched that made me... Because I remember you mentioned, Becker, how like... Or like, well, both of you did when you were just talking about how a show, even when it's over, you still think about even afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I felt like that was when I watched Koe No Katachi. Because I went into a deep thing in
That's
my
a movie
mind
that kind of
about,
sticks with you after a while.
Yeah,
it really did, because, you know, I started thinking to myself, like, was there ever a time in... I always try to relate how, if I've ever been in a situation like that before in my life. I do that with a lot of anime series, regardless of how ridiculous the show is. Like, oh, what would I do if I was in a tank? I would do it like this. But in Koe No Katachi, I always thought to myself, you know, like, what does it really mean to be a part of some sort of disaster when it comes to, like, bullying and stuff like that?
Because it's a very human story, right?
Yeah,
like,
it definitely made me think, because a lot of it, like at the beginning of Koe No Katachi, you can kind of tell the main character, I don't remember his name. Is it
Shoko.
Let's find out.
The guy or the girl?
Shoko is the girl. I'm talking about the guy. Whatever the guy.
Shoya.
Was it Shoya? Okay.
Shoya, right.
There's a lot at the beginning where he's kind of bullying her, but doesn't really mean to be a bully.
He's just fitting in with the crowd, yeah.
Yeah, he's just having fun and trying to fit in, not even thinking about how badly
what you're doing, right?
And
sometimes that happens in a lot of settings.
I kind of thought that, like, I had the same experience when I was younger. Like, there was, you know,
I think everyone does that just to fit in, because that's just kind of the
class. There was
culture.
This girl. She was like the butt of all the jokes, and we just kind of like, I just kind of joined in. Like, oh yeah, we'll just make fun of Amethyst, and it was actually her name. I'm not trying to call out.
Damn.
Amethyst from the sub. It's a totally unrelated person. But we'd always just make fun of her for, like, her name, how unique of a name it was. It seemed kind of silly, and, like, at the time I didn't think anything wrong with it. As I grew older and looked back on it, I was like, man, we were real. I feel really bad. Like, I feel really bad I did that. And then also watching Koe No Katachi, seeing the main character do the exact same thing and basically feel the exact same way, I was like, man, this is really well written. I hate this guy. I mean, I hate this guy about probably as much as she hated all of us.
Well, that's the thing. Kids growing up are pretty mean. You know, they're pretty, like... Yeah. Well, when you think about it. And it's true. Like, we don't think about that at the time, because everyone has that little fear of being the one singled out, you know, regardless. It's... We naturally, like, as humans, like, just want to fit in or want to be accepted into a group,
exactly.
You
know? Everyone else is making jokes, so you're like, oh, I'll join in and make the same jokes as them.
Yeah.
Not even thinking about, like, that there's someone on the other side of the jokes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I got. So I think that was one movie where I really thought to myself, like, have I done that before? Or, like, has that ever happened to me? And I always try... I think that's what relates to this whole thing, the whole, like, turning brain on thing, because I always try to use my mind to relate to any of these characters in any show I watch. And that's tough, especially with shows that are just completely, like, off the walls crazy, like Keijo. Like, oh, at one point I used my ass to... No, it doesn't work like that. But when I'm watching shows like... When I'm watching...
Bacon,
like,
what do you use your ass to do?
Oh, to like get people out of the way on the sidewalk, obviously. but like when I watch a show like Gurren Lagann, I'm just like, oh yeah, at one point in my life I did struggle, and I needed some other outside voice to tell me like, hey, like you're gonna be fine. You could do it like this, you know.
Yeah.
So that's, in the end, some of my favorite shows. I always had the best emotional connection to either a character or at least something that happened in that show. And I know my top 10 list has changed a lot over the years, and it continues to change. It just shows that I'm getting a lot more out of it when I choose to really think about the show and how it relates to my life. Is usually what I go for. But then everyone's like, oh, how does freaking Goop relate to you? I'm like, well, I'm
I
a
like
tank.
tanks and I like cute girls.
Yeah, see, in the end, is that what's all about?
You know what? They Gambare so hard. They have that willpower, you know?
Yeah, same with the girls from K-On! It's just they're just trying their best in music and eating
Do their
cake.
best.
Don't think about it.
I mean, I think actually K-On's a good example of a show that I think you can appreciate for more emotionally resonant things, especially later on in like season 2.
Oh
But
yeah.
as someone who hasn't seen it, it also seems like the kind of show that you could totally get by just enjoying the girls
Yeah,
being
I think that's kind of like
Which is majority of
kind
the
of
fan
the
base,
thing.
I'd argue.
Well, it is definitely like I'm not gonna like dismiss any like claims that it isn't like a cute girls doing cute things. So it is totally a cute girls show,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I do think it is that, but also something not more, but like something like I said, emotionally resonant for a lot of
Right.
people probably.
I mean, like, you can... It seems like the kind of show that you can watch either way
yes.
and love.
Well, most of like the emotional, like the big emotional moments, are like in season 2, where
Right. So even if you're only watching it for the girls, like, you still have some kind
yeah,
of...
you can appreciate it for both reasons, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
what like makes me like emotional, and I'm trying my best not to spoil season 2, but you get kind of attached to these characters because this show does a really good job of like introducing and then like not reintroducing, but like they're very the characters are very consistent. They're very well written in how they
Okay, yeah.
are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like you get attached to these characters because they feel like, oh wow, I would hang out with these people like in high school, right? Because like
Right.
everyone probably did something in high school or had a group of friends in high school that they would just do everything with, right? Like
Yeah, and then each of your friends, you kind of knew them for something specific.
yeah, or just some type of group, and then like by the end, like oh shit, I'm gonna miss these people, kind of thing, right?
Right.
Like that's what K-On's what I think K-On's really about. But it also has a very cute and fluffy aesthetic to it, which is I think just a stylistic choice. I think like you could do this with like any other like kind of show probably, or any type of high school show, and you'd probably get like similar results, but they just chose to do like cute girls doing cute things, I guess.
And I mean, I haven't seen K-On, but the way you describe it, it makes you think kind of like Hibike, where it's more of a drama that also has to do with at the end, like I'm gonna miss all the people that graduate.
Kinda, yeah. Well, K-On's a little bit more. K-On has like kind of sad moments, but like it's mostly like tries to be happy, and then you realize, oh shit, it's coming to a close soon, kind of thing. I guess.
High school's ending. I assume
Yeah.
is how it is.
Yeah, because
they're all high school students, and I know.
yeah.
Oh god, and I'm gonna miss high school so much.
I mean, that's kind of how I was, because like I was in theater in high school, and I was with a lot of people for like 4 years, right? So like when I performed in I think it was Cinderella for senior year. That was my last show, and the last performance was like very emotional for me because like I had spent a lot of time with a lot of these people, and I was like, a lot of these people I'm probably not going to see again for a while, so like I cried a lot.
Aww. That's
So,
really
like,
good.
when
Were
I
you
watched-
Cinderella?
Well,
Were
no,
you the evil stepsister?
I wish. Like, I mean, I've never really been someone who's like gotten like super big parts because of like seniority or anything. Like, I've always just been like, there are no like small parts. I've never believed in like like there's not like having a small part is a bad thing. Like, if you do that small part really well, then fuck yeah, go for it.
If the small
kind of
parts
thing.
didn't exist, the show couldn't go.
Yeah, like, I mean,
Someone's got to be that tree.
Someone has to.
I'm not gonna get into it, but like I didn't mind being small parts. I just wanted to. I did it for like social reasons, to be honest. Like there was a lot of great people to hang out with, kind of.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. I
But,
don't
like-
think there's anything wrong with having a small role in it.
Oh, yeah.
that
some
role has
some
to
people got
exist somewhere.
sometimes people get kind of sad that they get small roles, like because they were expecting to get a big role, but like whatever. Shout out to those people.
I feel like sometimes people go in there thinking
that they're hot shit, and then they
want to be the star, and then they eventually, and then like they get disappointed when they're not,
and then they get like toned down a peg, and it's like
maybe,
And then we have to turn our brains off when they're on stage because they're so bad.
maybe they'll learn. Oh, I don't mind being a small role. I just like being involved.
It's about contributing, right? Like because every part contributes something to it, right?
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is that like that show. I watched it a couple years after I graduated high school, and I kind of wish I watched it when I was in high school, because I would have been like, holy shit, I feel this. I think a lot of people would feel this. Like, it's really something that, like, if you can kind of get past, like, the fluffy aesthetic, you could probably resonate with a lot of what this show's about, I think. But not everyone really likes it, and that's totally fine. Like, I can understand being turned off by Callan's aesthetic, and I think a lot of the fans kind of push the fluffy aesthetic a lot for the show, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I think maybe it should be marketed as, oh, this is actually like very relatable if you've ever had like a group of friends in high school kind of thing. But
I feel like there's a I don't know the word to use, but there's like a group of people on the subreddit, which is basically where I get all my anime stuff. So I don't know how it is outside of it really, but there's like a group of people who basically will sell a lot of shows on just being cute girls. Like they won't really, they don't really care too much about the rest of it. They're just like, this has cute girls, it's good, and that's that.
I would even argue that a lot of cute girl shows are kind of about like being just with a group of friends a lot of the time.
Yeah,
like,
I would agree.
But I think people kind of focus on one aspect of a show too much and not like think about the other. Like think about like marketing the other aspects, because like a lot of the time people are just kind of looking for something they can resonate with or like feel something with, kind of.
Yeah.
In some way, shape, or
I agree with
form.
that.
I don't know. I don't want to talk. We're gonna have a fan bases episode eventually. So like this is kind of a fan bases episode.
That sounds fun.
Something I wanted to do for a while. I've actually had the thumbnail made for
to hear
a
about
while.
how toxic the JoJo fan base is.
Oh man, I was actually going to talk about. Well,
guess what? We're not going to talk about.
I was actually okay. We're not going to talk about it quite yet. But yeah, I just wanted to say it's a show that like I think the term "turn your brain off" gets put on certain shows because what it kind of comes to fan. I think I talked about this earlier, but like comes to fan bases, like kind of marketing it as a specific type of show, sort of.
Right.
That's all I really wanted to say.
It's like some people will be like, "Oh, you got to watch JoJo because it's just muscly dudes and memes."
Yeah, I feel like I've kind of like contributed to like, okay, JoJo is just memes. Like, nah, I mean JoJo does have memes. Absolutely has.
I don't
memes.
mean to bring it all back to JoJo all the time.
Oh no, it's. I mean, JoJo's if it's a like low key turn your brain off is like that's JoJo kind of like for a lot of people probably. I assume. But like. I don't know, where was I going with this? Oh, it's just like I think people should like think about how they talk about shows and how they like market it, or quote unquote market it to other people, right? Like and then saying turn your brain off is not really the best way to like talk about a show. I think
I agree.
You should talk about what makes it great or what you like about it, what you get out of it, kind of.
When someone says turn your brain off, that means this show is pretty... at least to me, they're saying this show is really stupid.
Or there's not much to like really get out of it, like emotionally.
Well, it's almost an insult.
It's like they say it because it's like it has a lot of problems. Like Mirai Nikki, for example, is a show that's definitely turn your brain off. But I can go.
I think Mirai Nikki was written to be kind of in. I think intent is also a good thing to consider. Like it's a show that's like not really meant to be like high class, not high class, but like what's the word? High grade art or something.
High tier
art or something. Whatever. And even then, that word has a lot of like connotations. Like that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah, appeal is definitely the thing that I wanted to say because I think that this whole thing exists because people are they're so interested in sounding smart.
Yeah,
they always want to be
like. Digi talked about this in like his shonen, like his subversive shonen video, which I thought was really interesting. Is that his beginning point? And I thought that was the biggest point that I thought that was the most interesting point in the video. Is that a lot of people like to make their show sound way smarter than like it actually is, or like way better written than everything else. When it's like, in actuality, it's probably similar to a lot of other shows, but it just appealed to you in a very specific way that it may not appeal to everyone else, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. I think that currently, like, the big quote-unquote turn your brain off show, although I guess this episode's coming out after this is over, but Goblin Slayer is a big thing right now, and that's a show that a lot of people overanalyze because they're like, oh, this doesn't make sense, but it's like, Goblin Slayer is about the violence.
Yeah, this
just
character. Seems like a guy who just kind of like kills goblins for.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be an expansive action fantasy or some shit. Like that was never the point. It is
what it says
show.
on the tin, basically. That's what I'm.
Exactly.
I haven't seen the show, but that's what it kind of comes off like when people talk about it.
I mean, the show is literally a guy who kills goblins. There's points where they go up to him and they're like, "Hey, Goblin!" Like his name is Goblin Slayer.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, Goblin Slayer, we need your help to go kill this demon." And he's gonna be like, "Oh, are there gonna be goblins there?" And they're like, "No." He goes, "Then I'm not interested."
Yeah, fuck that.
I don't care. I want to kill goblins. Like, I don't give a shit about anything else.
Yeah, Goblin Slayer I would not at all describe as a turn your brain off show. Instead, I would just say, I said this from Maho Shoujo's site as well, keep your brain on and just think about why would this show exist? What would be the appeal of the show?
Yeah,
exactly.
See that I'm going to go off by the most. I
wouldn't call it a turn your brain off. And I wouldn't call Maho Shoujo's site a turn your brain off either.
It is not. It's the same thing as Goblin Slayer.
The kind of shows that I would think of as turn your brain off would be something like something that I think the author, and like you talked about intent, which I fully agree with. You like the author isn't sitting down going, all right, I need to plan out this elaborate world and that keep people interested and they want to read more about the lore and whatever. It's more like the author just sitting down and going, what would be cool? What would be fun?
What do I want to do? What is the story that? And
a lot of the time, I think I don't even know if authors are totally aware of everything that they're writing. Like, I think they just write whatever comes to mind. Honestly, like whatever, like you said, whatever they think.
It definitely happens.
Like quote unquote cool, right? And that can mean a number of different things, right?
Yeah.
But
it can definitely happen where an author will write something and then other people will find meaning in it the author never intended, and they'll run with that.
And then people end up analyzing things that's not there, which drives me nuts.
Well, I mean, we can get into. I actually do want to have an authorial intent episode at some point because I think that's kind of interesting.
That would also be cool.
Because at the end of the day, we're all interpreting art, right?
Yeah.
In our own way.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Unless I wrote it all.
Yeah. Well, and even then, authors can be like kind of deceiving. Like I don't even want to get into like death of the author kind of conversations because that's a whole like can of worms. Not a can of worms, but it's a whole rabbit hole of stuff that I don't know if this is really
it's a
right
whole
for this
thing.
Turn your brain off is kind of like related to like death of the author stuff, author's intents and stuff like that in a way. I think. But I don't know. I don't know where to go with this actually.
No, I think we're pretty good on everything else. Yeah, I'm pretty much brain dead right now, honestly.
Your brain's turned off now.
Yes. Which, by the way, you know
Bacon's
where you really have to, before we go, the one place you really have to turn your brain off is hentai. Okay, but that's another thing.
Okay, you got to turn on your other head. Like
exactly.
We already made that joke. We can't make it again.
We can't make it again, hey, Jesus.
I'm sorry. Okay,
get some better jokes. You don't have the willpower, do you? Like
I don't have the willpower to make jokes, dude. Shut up.
God damn.
I hate you and everything you stand for. Okay?
Dude, I'm fucking sitting. You can't even.
Oh my god, Daddy. Right,
weird flex, but okay.
It's the weirdest. That is the weirdest one.
Dude, I'm fucking sitting. What do you want from me?
You can't do shit about me.
That feel when the Guinness Book of World Records is nothing but weird flexes.
Dude,
it is. Like, why? Why do you have the world's longest nails? Just because I can. All right, I think we're done here. Thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys had your brains running this entire episode.
I do think this is a lot of thought-provoking stuff. At least something to think about. Turn your brain off is actually kind of a deceiving term, kind of like global warming. Like it means a number. It's actually not really what it means. It means like
how can global warming be real if everything's getting colder?
Yeah, it's cold outside.
Dude, it goes in cycles, bro.
It's like climate change. It goes both ways.
Oh my god, yeah. I don't want to get into a climate change discussion, but like it popped into my head.
Podcast, you don't want to talk about climate change?
Wow, I'm
denying climate
changes.
Okay, we're done. No more. We're not talking about this.
Okay. All right.
cut.
Okay.
All right.
Tutoru.
One pair of pants later.
Send it to me as a FLAC. And I think... Sure. I think I might try using Vegas. Alright, later. I might try doing Vegas on this one. Because I've never used Vegas Pro yet. No, I've always had it. Because beginning of the year, they had a Humble Bundle, and I bought it then. And I still have those audio programs that I've been wanting to give to you, but you never asked for them. So I'm just like, okay. You never asked. I don't know. Okay, this is months ago. See, that's how long ago it was. Oh crap, I'm still recording on Audacity. Whoop.